Blessed Lenten season, everybody, and Tony here with my review of Puccini's Madama Butterfly with conductor Carlo Montanaro, which I saw last night at the Staatsoper unter den Linden. This marks the second time I saw Eike Grams's production of Puccini's Madama Butterfly at the Staatsoper unter den Linden because I wanted to see, hear, and witness Maria Agresta perform the role of Cio-Cio-San. I've been admiring Maria Agresta as a singer for what feels like over a decade. I've also admired her initial coloratura soprano work, especially with her performance as Gemma di Vergi by Donizetti, and I even heard her barely 8 years ago perform the role of Desdemona from Verdi's Otello live from the Royal Opera House. I've always admired her for her absolutely fabulous musicianship, as well as her elegant stage presence, which made her a great asset in roles such as Liu from Turandot, Cio-Cio-San from Puccini's Madama Butterfly, and even Anna Bolena by Gaeta Donizetti, among many of the roles that she has been singing in. Sure, I do feel like her tackling Tosca and other heavier roles these days is quite questionable, but I feel like she is at her strongest in the full lyric soprano repertoire, especially where the likes of Mimi from La Boheme and Cio-Cio-San are concerned, unless they forget about Liu. I thought that her performance last night as Cio-Cio-San was truly, absolutely, and indubitably incredible. First of all, I thought that her vocal acting was just absolutely incredible because I do believe that this was a young girl blossoming into a young woman who also has to face some really tragic circumstances as well as some really unexpected surprises in her young life. It's also helped by that womanly nobility that she was able to exude, as well as that wonderful aplomb that has made her renowned throughout all of the world, as well as in the roles that she's been singing in. Her Cio-Cio-San is in the similar vein of the likes of Montserrat Caballé, Rossana Carteri, Renata Scotto, Raina Kabayavanska, Mirella Freni, Maria Chiara, and Leontine Price, in which her interpretation of this role is very lyrical in nature. Her creamy tone, as well as that richness in her full lyric soprano voice, were her greatest assets that made the role work. She also had really good coordination of head voice and chest voice in a lot of the moments, and even though she could use a lot more chest voice, especially in the more dramatic moments or in the moments where she really has to exclaim her pain, her joy, and her suffering, and her agony, I do feel that Maria Agresta was a consummate musician as well as a credible singing actress. So she does need to continue working on her chest tones and ensure that she does not fall into collapsed head voice or totally forget to coordinate head voice and chest voice. It also says something when great lyric sopranos of the past, such as Dorothy Kirsten, Licia Albanese, Mafalda Favero, Montserrat Caballé, Rossana Carteri, Mirella Freni, and Maria Chiara had great use of coordinated chest tones. The same thing can be said about Rosetta Pampanini and Claudia Muzio, who were absolutely fabulous spinto sopranos, with Rosetta Pampanini being more in the full lyric soprano route. It also says something that coloratura sopranos who sang Cio-Cio-San, such as Lotte Schöne, Totti Dal Monte, Mercedes Capsir, Anneliese Rothenberger, Erna Berger, Melita Museli, and Anna Moffo had way more coordinated chest tones, and I dare not forget about Maria Callas, who was the absolute complete package as Cio-Cio-San, not only having coordinated chest tones and chest tones, but also wonderful high notes. It was also a shame that Maria Agresta did not hit the high D flat during her first aria, Ancora un passo, but I still have to give Signora Agresta credit where credit is due in terms of her absolutely amazing vocal acting, as well as her incredible vocal prowess as a fine singing actress, complete with a creamy tone that managed to spin itself so beautifully, a plush instrument that had all that cream inside, as well as that nice fullness and richness, and no vocal thinness whatsoever. Sometimes her theatrical mannerisms did kind of overcome whatever vocal beauty she could produce in certain areas, but she still continued to march on and produce such an amazing performance as Cio-Cio-San. Katarina Kamealoha was really solid as Sutsuki, vocally and theatrically. Theatrically, she was able to play up the nervousness as well as the absolute dedication to her young mistress so beautifully. And she was also able to produce some fine nuances with this character. Sometimes I do feel that her tone tended to be one-sided or rather monotone, and there were also occasions where I felt that she should have used a lot more coordinated chest tones, as well as used the whole color palette to make Sutsuki work in her favor, considering that she has been performing this role for what feels like many years. And it also says a lot when mezzo-sopranos such as Anna Maria Canali, Anna Maria Rotta, Anna Di Stasio, Christa Ludwig, and Sieglinde Wagner, as well as Fiorenza Cosotto, had way more coordinated chest tones. And this was especially the case when it came to Christa Ludwig and Fiorenza Cosotto, who had those great coordinated chest tones and also made sure that they united all of their registers with everything that they've got, thus producing such nuanced performances as Sutsuki. And even though there were occasions where Katarina Kamealoha did sound kind of monotone, I still have to give my hat off to her for her great dedication as a singing actress, as well as her understanding of Sutsuki and what makes her tick, what makes her nervous, and what makes her want to protect Cio-Cio-San at all costs. Sandra Laagus was absolutely lovely as Kate Pinkerton. Her borderline soprano voice managed to do the role justice, all thanks to that youthfulness and that good coordination that she had between head voice and chest voice, as well as her elegant stage manner that made her thoroughly charismatic as Kate Pinkerton, thus making her also take advantage of this small character part. Georga Anguladze had a strong and imposing stage presence as Lucio Bonzo, and he also had a fine basso cantante voice to boot, but I prefer a bigger sounding, beefier sounding, and darker, richer, rounder basso profondo voice to ensure that this particular character comes to life. In terms of Georga Anguladze, his voice was in good condition, but it's kind of on the throaty side. And if he gets rid of that throatiness and sings a lot more clearly and a lot more pharyngally, then I'm pretty sure that his basso cantante voice can be a lot more imposing and a lot stronger. I'm pretty sure that if he also took inspiration from Bonaldo Giotti, Evgeny Nesterenko, Cesare Siepi, Nikolai Gyaurov, Nikola Gusev, Jerome Hines, and Giorgio Tozzi, unless they forget about the old guards such as Alexander Kipnis and Ezio Pinza, then I'm really sure that Georga Anguladze's voice can grow in richness, depth, darkness, and virility. Speaking of virility, Adam Smith was virility and manly attractiveness incarnate as Benjamin Franklin Pinkerton, or simply Pinkerton. His charisma and his absolutely engaging stage presence made him a thoroughly credible Pinkerton. And it's not just his attractive stage presence alone that made him win and triumph in this role, but also his steely, big timbre and present, full lyric tenor voice that could sing over that orchestra and that could launch high notes like comets pouring out of his mouth, or even swords slashing at an enemy, or even cannons just shooting to the stars to produce all of these amazing tones. There is a clarity and focus in his voice that I've always admired about Adam Smith, especially when he sang Hoffmann 6 or 5 years ago back in Bordeaux, that he was able to make a strong, great, and amazing first impression on me as the listener. And here he was striking again as Pinkerton with all of his vocal glory as well as his handsome stage presence. He almost kind of reminded me of a young Roberto Alagna coupled with Giuseppe Di Stefano and even a bit of Gianfranco Cecchelle in the mix, unless they forget about Gianni Raimondi as well as Giacinto Prandelli. And I'm also sure that he could also take a lot more inspiration from the likes of Franco Corelli, Carlo Bergonzi, Giuseppe Di Stefano, Giacinto Prandelli, Enrico Caruso, Giovanni Martinelli, Giovanni Zeratello, and many great Italian tenors of the past. And lest I forget my personal favorite Pinkerton of all time, Daniele Barioni, because of his strong, handsome, and incisive vocal presence. And even though I'm still talking about Pinkerton, I dare not forget about his Calaf, in which he was able to launch at that high A for what feels like over 13 seconds, which you got to owe yourself to listen to on YouTube, or if you have the recording of his Calaf. But I totally digress, because Adam Smith's unbeatable vocal prowess made him thoroughly triumph as Pinkerton, especially when he had his vocal goods by his side, and especially when he was able to make the role his own and conquer it all guns blazing. Carles Pachon was a handsome and dashing sharpless. His sharpless is in a similar vein of the likes of Mario Sereni and Mario Borriello, Italian lyric baritones who had excellent musicianship, which is also reflected in Senor Pachon's interpretation of sharpless. There was not one tone that I thought was monotone. He had a whole color palette that brought in youthfulness, virility, and charm to sharpless, and he was able to make the role his own with fabulous musicianship, a clear and focused tone, and a whole lot of acting credibility to make me thoroughly root for this consul. Dionysios of Gerinos was a handsome and sturdy imperial commissioner. Tehan Kim was a round, rich, and handsome Prince Yamadori, all thanks to his handsome stage presence as well as his great musicianship. Junho Huang was a lot of fun as Goro, the marriage broker, all thanks to his superb light lyric tenor voice that was brilliant, shining, and shimmering, and was absolutely agile from bottom to top. His peerless musicianship and his great flair for comedic drama made him absolutely amazing as Goro, and I cannot wait to see what the future has in store for Junho Huang as a superb light lyric tenor. There were also some equally fine performances accomplished by Thomas Neubauer's charismatic Uncle Yakuside, Ileana Bunesco's gorgeously sung mother of Cio-Cio-San, Stephanie Safransky's fine and wonderful wonderful auntie of Cio-Cio-San, and Michel Cousson being so fabulous as Cio-Cio-San's cousin, and the wonderfully fine and absolutely adorable portrayal of Dolore, or sorrow, done by Nikolai Müller. So overall, the singing was absolutely amazing, especially from both Maria Agresta and Adam Smith. Maria Agresta's full lyric soprano voice was a shimmering and shining beauty from beginning to end, but she also must use a lot more coordinated chest tones to ensure that her voice continues to be in exceptional condition, as well as ensure that her chest tones remain as round and rich as ever. So I will definitely encourage her on that front, and Adam Smith's star continues to shine and blaze with glory. In fact, I would even love to see this gentleman as Eleazar from La Juive, Roldenangy from Les Huguenots, Robert le Diable, and maybe even Arnold from Guillaume Tell, because these roles are tailor-made for him. And I dare not forget about Orombello from Beatrice di Tenda, Pollione from Norma, and Roberto Devereux from Roberto Devereux, among many other great roles for his natural full lyric tenor voice. This was definitely a wonderful evening for opera thanks to these two amazing singers, and it was also thanks to Maria Agresta's gorgeous lyric soprano voice that made her absolutely incredible as Cio-Cio-San. Katarina Kamaloha, Sandra Agus, Carles Pachon, Junho Huang, Taehan Kim, Georgia Anguladze, Dionysios Avgerinos, Ileana Buch-Gunesco, Stephanie Safransky, Michel Cousson, Thomas Neubauer, and Nikolai Müller also gave equally fine performances in their respective roles. But more than anybody, it was Maria Agresta's evening for an amazing sing, as well as Adam Smith's evening for great technical prowess from beginning to end. The conducting done by Carlo Montanaro was absolutely engaging and thoroughly amazing from beginning to end. He was nuanced, he was absolutely engaged with the orchestra, and he led that orchestra with a lot of chutzpah, self-confidence, and self-assurance. There was not one note that I thought was too sour or too brassy. In fact, he was able to just let it all out with pure abandon and do so with a lot of brilliance and a lot of strength. And what more can you expect from the chorus and the orchestra of the Staatsoper to den Linden? They were all absolutely amazing from beginning to end and were totally professional. Maria Agresta did such an amazing job as Cio-Cio-San. Her natural full lyric soprano voice was in great use for this iconic geisha girl, and I was in for it. She sang with nuance, she sang with beauty, and she sang with charm, as well as awesome vocal acting. She definitely held her own tonight as a singing actress, and she was also a fine and consummate musician who ensured that her voice remained in mint condition. Joining alongside her was Adam Smith, who also gave such a stirring portrayal as Pinkerton, all thanks to his ringing and brilliant full lyric tenor voice that was so full of metal and so full of excitement. Together, Maria Agresta and Adam Smith made a lot of vocal wonder last night and did so with confidence, chutzpah, and aplomb. And for those of you who caught this performance of Madama Butterfly by Puccini at the Staatsoper den Linden, what'd you think of it? Did you feel that Maria Agresta managed to do so amazingly as Cio-Cio-San? What was your most favorite moment with her in this role? Did you also feel that there was someone who stole her thunder, such as Adam Smith as Pinkerton? Or did you feel like the singing was not to your liking, especially where Maria Agresta's Cio-Cio-San was concerned? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my review of Puccini's Madama Butterfly at the Staatsoper den Linden. Tune in next time for my review of Mozart's Idomeneo, also at the Staatsoper den Linden, starring Rolando Fiathon as Idomeneo. So until then, blessed Lenten season, everybody.